Boop. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, August the 12th, 2021. Today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 111, 1 Kings 1, 1 through 30, Acts 6, 8 through 15. Or you could have read Psalm 34, 9 through 14, and then Job 11, 1 through 20. I'm going to take a look at 1 Kings 1, 1 through 30, and talk about seeing the shot and taking it, because that's what Adoniah is doing in this text today. Remember, I talked about before how David had lots of children, and he had them kind of because he had multiple wives, right? So he had multiple children from multiple wives. And the story here is that David is really at the end of his life. He's kind of checked out, right? He can't even keep himself warm in bed. Go read the first part of the text here, the first part of the chapter, first 4 or 5 verses. Kind of interesting. But like he's really checked out. Just not really paying attention. And so Adoniah sees his shot. He almost becomes king of Israel because he's taking advantage of his father's old age and, just like I said, general cluelessness at this point in his life and career. So he takes advantage of the situation by acting like a king. He goes out and he starts acting like a king, and he has, has allies that like help him do this, and he starts having these big meals and doing all these things and hanging out with the power brokers, and pretty soon people are hailing him as king and addressing him as king because they're kind of assuming he is, because he's looks like a king, acts like a king, and so he must be king, because we know David isn't doing anything and David isn't saying he's not king, so hey, he's king. It's a shrewd maneuver to become the de facto king while his dad is still living, still breathing. But what about Solomon? Because if you're thinking, hey, I've read the Bible and I don't remember a king Adoniah taking over after David. Well, you're right, because he doesn't. The problem is he had no authority to do any such thing as claim the throne for himself. And Nathan the prophet knew this because, well, David had promised Solomon would be on the throne, and Bathsheba, Solomon's mom, and you know her from the story previously about how she and David got together and how that worked out. Bathsheba knew this because David had promised her that her son Solomon would one day sit on the throne. So they kind of have to show up at David's room and shout at him and tell him to wake up. So it falls on Nathan and Bathsheba to tell David what's going on. And they actually planned this out. It's really interesting because they plan out how they're going to do this, and they make it look like they just happen to both show up at the same time with the same story. Not really. But they get there and they explain how, Bathsheba and Solomon are being put in jeopardy by this because, when kings come to power, they don't really like to keep anybody who can challenge their authority around. And even David himself is, could be put in jeopardy, because if you're already being proclaimed king, but there's a chance that your dad could wake up and say, no, you're not king, Solomon's king, you might go and maybe do something to your dad before he has a chance to do that. And it's, basically the story of Absalom all over again. Which didn't end up well. So David wakes up and realizes that he's just kind of let everything get bad once again. And he publicly exalts Solomon to the throne while he is still alive. So Solomon is basically taking over the throne even though David is still alive. Which then calls into question Adoniah and his self-assumed authority. So don't be in such a hurry to exalt yourself. It might not work out. Anyway, that's the DBR for today. Get out, enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, and we'll talk to you later. Huggins will be here tomorrow with another DBR for you. Boop.